Thank you, Kate, and good morning. And as Kate said, thank you for being here after a long day. But this is really important work. And before I get started, I'd like to thank the members of the committee and the task force and the commission that has put together this report under our Chief of Human Resources, Ms. Nadine Jones, as she's chaired this work. This kind of give you a little bit of a backstory and where this started. This has been something that, as a district, and some of you have been covering this for a while, the school system, we've had an issue in really been recruiting and retaining our educators. We've had a amount of teachers that vacant positions in our schools for day one. Coming in, I knew that when I took this job 2.5 years ago. And really we set a clear focus to hopefully our goal and target by the end of our strategic plan is that we minimize and we have a 0 vacancies in our schools. So every child has an opportunity to learn and grow with a highly qualified and certified teacher in every classroom. Right now, when you'll see in the report is that potentially we have around 12% of our class. 12,000 students that do not have experience on day one. So this commission, I just wanted to thank you for your work and looking at all the data and looking at all our previous practices and bring some really extensive recommendations for me and the team to align to the work moving forward. This is very similar to the equity commission that was delivered and shared with us a year ago. This is not going to be something that we are going to be putting on the shelf. This is not something that is just another report to tell us a lot of the things that we already know. This is a report that is really going to be action driven. And I'm excited that this team will deliver on some of what these recommendations. Before I turn it over to our next Dr. Brenda Pearson from CCA, I really do want to thank CCA as our exclusive collective bargaining agent. I say this often, they're not, there's a lot of other districts of my colleagues across the country that may not have such a great collaborative partnership. I believe that we do because we have the same vision, and having a highly qualified certified teacher is the #1 predictor for student success, and we are both aligned on that mission. And I want to thank her and the team, but also my 7 bosses and my board of trustees that will be holding me accountable and our team to deliver on this result. So Dr. Pearson.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you, Superintendent Jara. I was honored to be part of this commission, so thank you for inviting me. Just to recap, in order for CCSD to recruit a high quality teaching force, we have to first start with attracting candidates to the profession. The commission identified hurdles to recruitment and developed recommendations aimed at meeting the goals identified by CCSD in the 2024 plan. The first hurdle we identified was the recruitment. We need to have a stronger teacher pipeline. Right now, our pipeline is too limited. To do that, we need to work collaboratively with local universities and partners. Currently, there's 1/3 of all of our CCSD annual hires come from outside of Nevada. In order to reverse that trend, we want to make sure that we expand the Grow Your Own programs. That exposes future educators to the profession. CCSD's teacher pipeline also needs to be more diverse. This is simple. We know that it is important because when students learn from educators who identify as the same race, their learning outcomes improve. Also, our community has a built-in pipeline of teachers already with the support professionals and our students in the career and tech academies. This needs to be strengthened. The second hurdle we identified was the hiring process, and we had recommendations that were threefold. The first, we need to start hiring earlier. This allows CCSD to be one of the first folks out of the gate prior to the other districts to recruit high quality teachers. Next, we need to be forward thinking, and we need to use data to project the number of teaching positions and types of positions we need for the next year. We need to create candidate pools to make sure that future CCSD educators move through the process more smoothly. Those are our recommendations that we came up with for the recruitment of teachers to CCSD.
Michelle, would you like to add anything to what Dr. Pearson had?
Yeah, thank you, Kate. I was going to bring it, and thank you, Dr. Pearson. One of the things that I do want to also recognize is we did get partners. We received some support from our business community. Not only was the Metro Chamber and some of our partners and nonprofits, but then also experts in the HR. And I know that Michelle Detondo has extensive background in HR practices and hiring practices from our partners here within the business community. So Michelle, anything that you want to share and add into this recommendation?
Sure. Thank you for the opportunity to serve on the commission. I was actually on the retention subcommittee. So if the recruitment committee was focused on how do we fill the pipeline, retention was focused on how do we keep it from leaking so that we can gain some progress. The report will show that about 12% of year one teachers leave the school district after their first year, and 14.9% of experienced teachers resign for reasons other than retirement. And so we knew that there were some challenges that we needed to understand in order to address retention. As we dove into trying to find out the reasons why teachers at all experience levels would choose to leave either a school or the district, what we really found out was we needed to improve our data in order to ensure we were focusing on the right things. So our first recommendation was that we improve upon the existing culture survey, which identifies challenges that leaders or teachers face and feedback that they might have on the culture of their buildings. And then second, expand the exit survey to include all teachers, whether they're in their first year or whether they're experienced teacher, and identify why they either leave their building or why they resign from the school district, so we can make sure that we understand and address what's driving those decisions. The second recommendation that we have and that we know is that the roles of both teachers and administrators are complex and challenging. And so we wanted to improve the coaching and mentoring programs that are offered within the school district for teachers at all experience levels, not just new teachers who are learning the role, but experienced teachers who continue to face challenges along with their administrators. And so our second recommendation was to improve upon coaching and mentoring programs within the district to support teachers and administrators with all the challenges they face.
So with that, we also have CCSD's Chief of Human Resources, Nadine Jones, on the line. We're going to open it up for questions. We're going to start with television first. We'll start with Channel 3. Channel 3, do you have any questions? Not hearing any. Fox 5, do you have any questions you'd like to ask? All right. Channel 8, do you have any questions?
Hello, Dr. Jar and everyone else. Out of curiosity, is this also a way to improve the number of students in our classes? Because we have been dealing with overcrowded classrooms. So is the reason you're trying to recruit more teachers is to help deal with the overcrowding in our classrooms? And is this a way to also prepare for future school years, or whether it's 2021, 2022, or 2024 and beyond, to make sure our class sizes are reduced and we have more teachers to support that?
I'll turn it over to Ms. Nadine Jones.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Nadine Jones. You know, truly the motivation was more about just filling the current classes that we have and ensuring that for the current classes that we have a teacher in every classroom at the beginning of the school year and of course ongoing. So it was really more about that than it was specifically related to class size reduction.
Okay. And what is our teacher shortage right now in the district?
So as of yesterday, we were 269 classroom teachers short.
That seems significant because I think in previous years we've been talking about 700, 800. So why is it different this year compared to previous years?
So you are correct. It is definitely a significant change. Just to put it into a little bit more context, the beginning of the 1920 school year, I believe our reported number was approximately 761 classroom shortages. This year, at the very beginning of the year, we opened up with 409 classroom shortages. A lot of the reason for that was our retention rate or attrition rate was lower. So we had less people leave the district, less classroom teachers leave the district last year as compared to prior years. So definitely the focus on retention that Michelle spoke about, we can see what a significant difference that makes. So I do believe that was a large part of the reason for the reduction.
Channel 13, KTNV. I don't know if Max is on or not. All right, let's go to print, Review Journal.
Hello, I was wondering if someone could please address the challenges in recruiting certified teachers to come to CCSD, and what subject areas or grade levels in particular are you seeing the most challenges?
So yes, I can address that. Really, a large part of the challenge in recruiting is what Dr. Brenda Pearson said, is that the pipelines are just not full enough. So even from local universities and colleges of education, there are not enough people going into education, not enough people graduating from education in order to fill the need. And as I'm sure you're all aware, it's also a national issue. So it's not, that specifically is not unique to Nevada. In terms of the subject areas, special education is almost always the largest opportunity area for us to fill. And then some of the other areas are elementary, math, and science. But special education is by far the most challenging.
Did you have any other additional questions, Julie?
No, that answers my question. Thank you.
Is anybody from the Las Vegas Sun on the call?
Yes, this is Sarah McNeil, Las Vegas Sun. How many teachers have left the school district since March?
So I don't have the exact number from March. I'm sure I could get it, but I tend to look at it more, for the cycle of the whole school year. Again, I don't have the hard number, but I can tell you as a percentage of licensed professionals, normally we're approximately 9% that leave us annually, and that's including experienced teachers and new hires. So that's, and not just classroom, that's all licensed professionals. It's generally about 9%. And this past year, so ending with the 1920 school year, we were at roughly 7%. So by percentages, I can tell you, I would have to look up the exact numbers if you need hard numbers.
Okay, so the pandemic, how has it impacted retention and recruitment?
So, that number that I just told you, that 7% attrition, was for all of last school year. And as you know, the pandemic, our first closure was in March. So I would say it has potentially because of the um, lack of other employment opportunities, just with the downturn in the economy as a result of the pandemic, I believe more people chose to stay. It's a secure and definitely needed position. And so for us, as our experience here at CCSD thus far, it has not had a negative impact on our retention. In terms of recruitment, certainly we are not able to travel as we did previously to, colleges of education in other states, but we have, of course, adapted as everyone else has to online virtual fairs and, more that type of activity. So far, it's nothing really significant in terms of the impact to CCSD for recruitment and retention.
Okay, thank you so much. And just one more thing, someone said that vacancies in classrooms means that like a class wouldn't have a teacher there. It would just be, so I'm just wondering how you deal with that. Are the teachers doing 2 classes, or how is that working?
In most cases, it would be covered by a substitute guest teacher in most cases.
Okay. Thank you. That's all.
You're welcome.
Thanks. Max, I see your hand. We'll circle back to TV in a second. Digital, Mr. Huey.
Good morning. Thank you for taking my question. Eric Huey with Clark County School Watch. First question, and I do have a follow-up. With this report, where does it go from here? What's the end result? Is this going to go to the board for discussion and possible action? Where do we see the end result of this report?
So I'll answer that question, Mr. Huey. This is a report that I, as a superintendent, commissioned. So this is within the purview of my operations. From outside folks looking into the recommendations, I've accepted the report. This was shared yesterday with a preview for our partners. So we will, as alignment to the strategic plan, we will be moving forward with implementing the recommendations. We will share this publicly with the board and with the community, so the community is fully aware of some of the next steps and action steps. But this is something that my very capable chief of human resources will be implementing across the district.
Great, and just to follow up, we obviously were successful in getting subs raises for the first time in 20 years. How are we doing, and this is possibly for Ms. Jones, how are we doing with trying to convert those subs to full-time teachers? There's ongoing discussions, street chatter on social media about subs wanting to possibly get benefits to try to get them to stay. We saw a lot of subs leave as a result of the pandemic. So how are we working with our substitute population to try to hold on to those subs and possibly convert them to full-time teaching positions?
Thank you. That's a great question, and it's actually definitely something that is a part of our plan to help close our teacher shortage gap. We do recognize that we need to do more focused efforts with our substitute guest teacher population, those who are, of course, interested to move into a full-time role. Also, our support professionals who are already working in classrooms side by side with teachers, and many of whom are interested in moving into roles. And then, of course, our students who are in Teach Academy programs. So I think I would answer my question by saying that I do not feel that we are in a great place with that yet in terms of having a really good systemic process to help with that. But I would definitely say it is something that we are working on setting up the foundation for, because we absolutely recognize that that's an opportunity for us as well, and for that would greatly benefit our substitute guest teacher population.
Great, thank you. That's all I have.
Max, you had your hand up. Channel 13.
Channel 3, thanks so much.
Channel 30, sorry.
No worries. We're all friends out here. It's all good. Dr. Jara, this
you have these recommendations. You'll be moving forward with implementing the recommendations. How does that process look? How do you implement them in an efficient and effective way so that the district can see a difference soon?
Yeah, Max, thank you for that question. That's a very important question. Actually, and this is something that I failed to mention at the beginning. When we started and I formed this commission together, it was pre-COVID. But this is so critical because whether we're virtual, distance ed, blended, face-to-face, we have a teacher shortage and we are going to need teachers, right? So it's a priority for us as a school district. So one of the things that as things were rolling out and we saw the drafts of some of the recommendations coming, we started acting on it. For example, and I'll give you an example, was we noticed that in the school system for many years, we were only surveying teachers that were leaving 0 to 3 to try to find out why. Well, Nadine took the leadership and proactively said, Superintendent, here's a recommendation. And the recommendation came from the commission that we need to survey every employee leaving the school district to find out the root cause as to the why. That work started January 4th. So we didn't wait until today. On the release. We started, saying everybody in January 4th from now on. So now we survey every employee. So as we think about some of the most immediate now, it'll be up to the team to not prioritize. Now we're in a hiring season, right? So now we start prioritizing some of those recommendations that we need to act quickly to make sure that we close the gap for our classrooms.
And just one follow-up. With the uncertainty of the pandemic, with the uncertainty of what the future of education is going to look like, and the national teacher shortage as is, you've had issues with recruitment before. Why should a teacher who, there's not a lot of them out there right now anyway, why should they go to CCSD where there are other options possible out there on the table for them?
No, you're right. And one of the things that we certainly are looking at is how do we capitalize on the pandemic? And this is some of the things that, and I think it's in the recommendations in the report. We talked about it yesterday, as a team. So we have magnets, we have engineering magnets, we have science magnets, we have how do we then expand to build our own in CCSD? So our kids, our families, we educate and really get into that reward of putting, and changing lives. We know we don't, educators go into because they want to change the lives of a child. And I think that's the critical component in the culture. And that's where we need to really get into. They don't they don't go into it for the money. They go into for the impact that's having in the classroom and the impact that's having in a child's life. And I think that's what we have to sell them on, the security, being home, knowing your community, and how do we diversify the options. And I think that's in the report. We have to build our own here in Clark County.
Thank you, Dr. Jarrah.
Box 5, KVVU. Channel 13. Sorry, go ahead, Box 5.
Yeah, sure. Hold on. Let me get my question here. What are some of the qualities the district looks for in a teacher?
Nadine?
So, a lot of it is really, and I don't know the technical side. I've never been a teacher myself, so I will talk about some of the other qualities outside of sort of the more technical pieces of it. But some of the qualities and the information that I've received from the principals and the things that are of most importance to them is truly, first and foremost, people who believe that all students can learn. I mean, that's something that I've heard over and over, is how important it is that we have educators and really all of our staff that are in it, as Dr. Jarrah said, for the right reason, because they want to make a difference and because they truly believe in the ability of children, and that they really want to make that difference. So that's literally the top thing that I'm always thinking of. People who genuinely like children, who genuinely care for them, who genuinely want to make a difference, and who have that strong belief that every student has the ability to succeed.
And then just another follow-up with that. What would you say to a teacher who is considering leaving the district?
Well, certainly, of course, first and foremost, part of the reason for implementing the exit survey is we want to understand why. That's the very first step, is to understand the why. You know, as with any organization, sometimes people leave for really, truly uncontrollable reasons, right? Families relocating, all of those things. If it were a reason, anything to do with, you know, dissatisfaction with the district or anything like that, then of course our next step would be to work to resolve those things, because we want to retain our teachers and ensure that we are meeting their needs. Not just our teachers, we really want to retain all of our staff and ensure, as an employer, it's our responsibility to ensure that we're meeting their needs. So I would just want to understand why, and if it's something that is within our control to address, then of course I would ask for the opportunity for us to address that for them.
Okay, thank you.
Channel 8, Kristen, do you have any follow-up?
So just to clarify, teachers who were new to about 3 years in, they were originally given that exit survey about why they were leaving, and now you expanded it?
That's correct.
Okay. And then I know, Dr. Jaw, you mentioned that teachers get into teaching because of the love of education, but one thing we've noticed, it's, you know, the economy runs around money, and I know there isn't a lot of money. However, how do you expect to get teachers here if you're not offering a competitive salary, and do you think you can offer a competitive salary?
Kristen, that's a great question. And I'll say this, I think our salary is competitive. I think the challenge is the class size. Is when you look at, I mean, obviously you look at the cost of living, and we have a competitive salary. When we look at the components of the class size, when we look at the lack of instructional materials and lack of the support, and this is where the partnership with CCA is so critical. You know, in some, it's how do we lower class size, because we do have the largest class size in the country. I'm glad you brought up that question. It's really, we have to address the immediate need of the vacancies, but we certainly, when you look at the classroom space, it's a huge issue. It's a workload, it's the working conditions of the teacher that is one of our biggest barriers and challenges for recruiting, and we don't have the data. So we needed to get to that aspect of to see the data, if that's just a component for them to leave. So then we can then partner and go to the legislature and say, here is what we are hearing from our educators who are leaving. Because it's a plethora of issues that we don't know, we can only speculate. I think this will help us.
And lastly, addressing overcrowding, if you are able to recruit more teachers, do you think that will lower our class sizes?
If we can recruit more teachers to fill our vacancies, and then we have the space in our buildings, because we do have some overcrowded schools, and we have, you know, where we have some vacancies. It's just not the perfect match. So can I answer specifically that yes, can we reduce class size? It all depends on where they are. I mean, and obviously working with our building leaders with enrollment and how do we balance that. So it's a puzzle. That we certainly, but as I mentioned and Nadine mentioned, our first priority is to have all our classroom space with a certified, highly qualified classroom teacher.
So that means CCSD will continue to put in that waiver to have those large class sizes still?
Right now, I mean, when you look at our numbers and our enrollment decreased a little bit, we're certainly going to have to, but I don't know in how many school buildings at this point.
Yeah, because we have, how many students would you estimate we have at this point?
Don't quote me on it, but it's around 310, 12,000 kids.
Okay, thank you.
When I got here.
Thank you. Channel 13. Okay, Julie, did you have a follow-up? Sarah, did you have a follow-up?
Yeah. Yes, I did have a follow-up. Based on information gathered from the exit surveys, what are some of the reasons why teachers are leaving?
So we have just implemented it, as Dr. Jara said, less than 2 weeks ago. It's something that actually one of the things that the commission recommended because they understood that it would take a while to get, sufficient data to take action on. So one of the things the commission recommended is to potentially send out the exit survey to people who have left within the prior year so that we could sort of get some, enough quantity of data that it would be meaningful within 2 weeks. We don't have that many teachers leave us in a 2-week space in order to report out on that yet.
Okay, yeah, I was confused about that. You said January, but so the surveys then, when will you have more results from those surveys, do you think? Are you going to review them at the end of the year or when?
So definitely we'll look at it closely quarterly just to be able to see the trending, but it would have the most meaning towards the end of the school year because most often people leave after they've completed their contract for the next school year. So we tend to have a larger number of exits from the district, at the end of the school year as they're leaving and not intending to return for the following school year. So that would be when we would have the largest influx of data.
And I know this is about recruitment and retention, but I do think that this could relate. I just wanted to see if I could get it on the vaccine and whether teachers will get that, whether teachers will be required to have that.
So teachers will not be required to have it. However, we are working with local health officials in order to get the logistics together for the educator pod.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Sarah. Before we get to Spanish language, I don't know, Eric, if you have a follow-up or if you are okay.
Just one real quick follow-up. Thank you. Dr. Hara, how many sat on the commission? What was the makeup of the commission, the level of diversity with educators or support staff that sat on the commission, if you will?
I don't have that. I think that's in the report, but we had, I would say, not to quote me on this, Eric, I think it's on the report and we'll release that maybe 14, 15. We had internal staff. We had, like I said, we had business sector, we had CCEA, we had Teach for America, we had Trustee Cepeda sat on the commission, business sector, Metro Chamber, or Las Vegas Chamber. So we had a variety, and then obviously, Brenda from CCA, and then we had some teachers as well. But that'll be included in the report.
Great, that's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, we're going to go to Spanish language. Univision.
Doctor Jara, ¿cómo está? Buenos días.
Buenos días, Alex.
Si puede resumirnos un poco el reto que estamos presentando como distrito escolar respecto a las contrataciones de maestros, ¿cómo podría definirlo?
Pregúntame otra vez, Alex, que no te oía.
Disculpe, los retos que estamos presentando como distrito, que tenemos como distrito en el tema de contrataciones de los maestros.
¿Cuántas nos quedan? Déjame ver si te entiendo. Los retos es, ¿cuántas nos quedan?
Sí, como challenges.
Ok, gracias.
No se preocupe, no se preocupe.
Estoy haciendo un code switch de inglés a español, así que perdóname. No, lo que estamos haciendo es lo que nosotros estamos viendo, que tenemos como 12,000 estudiantes que no tienen maestros certificados el primer día de la escuela, ¿no? Entonces, como 200% de abrir las escuelas sin maestros que están certificados. Entonces, lo primero que vemos es reclutar a profesores para que vengan. Es uno de los problemas que tenemos y que se quedan. Entonces, lo que estamos viendo es que en la higher ed, en las universidades, hay menos personas que quieren estudiar para ser maestro. Entonces, esas son una de las recomendaciones que estamos haciendo. Primero, ¿por qué se van los maestros? no tenemos los datos. Ahora, una de las recomendaciones que tenemos es cómo vamos a buscar y tener los datos eso. Y estamos haciendo un survey para ayudar. Eso es primero. Y después lo que estamos haciendo también es, tenemos que, porque seguimos reclutando afuera, pero después no se quedan. Entonces, ¿por qué no vamos a reclutar de los estudiantes de nosotros aquí mismo en los high school para que empiecen y estudian para ser maestros? Así saben la comunidad y se quedan y aquí es un trabajo muy bueno. Entonces, eso es varias cosas y tenemos ahí las recomendaciones en este reporte que vamos a empezar a emplear en las escuelas.
Doctor Jara, una pregunta más. ¿Exactamente tienen un número de cuántos maestros estamos cortos en este momento?
Sí, Nadine, vacancies 264 or 274?
269 as of yesterday.
There you go. So, Alex, ayer el número que tenemos es 269 profesores cortos, ahora mismo.
Perfecto, muchas gracias, doctor Jara.
Gracias, Alex.
Telemundo, and then we will wrap. Okay. Again, appreciate everybody taking the time today to sit and discuss the commission's report that's released. Feel free to email the communications office if you need any additional information. Thanks for taking the time today. Appreciate everybody and the work that the commission's done. Thank you.